Thank you very much for inviting me to be your chief guest. I've been a Nairobian now for, 50 years? Yeah. And I've seen this city, go round and round. And so probably a little history of our city will, enable those of you who are Gen Zs and Gen Ys to understand where this city has come from. In the 70s, the city of Nairobi had a very functional bus service, Kenya Bus. If you went to Kencom, you'll see the timetable. And then the buses would come, queue, and you will know where it is going, and you didn't need to be told. And matatus were for the outskirts to do the last mile. Today, the buses have disappeared, and we now have matatu chaos. The city has progressed, and then regressed. Yet we have more educated people, more widely traveled. I'm almost certain that all the MCAs in Nairobi have gone to Singapore. That one you can bet. But the knowledge from Singapore disappears when they land at Jomo Kenyatta. It just evaporates. So our city has come from very far, and I'm hoping that a resident association like CARA will help reinvent, first of all, for us to retrace our city to where we came from, and then now reinvent it to fit into the 21st century. And so, Chairman Nyaga and Andrew, please reset us as a city, first of all, to retrace our steps to what we were, probably a little more. The dustbin, the bill, you used to pay for the dustbin, and needs to be collected without fail on a particular day in your estate. And you pay through your water bill. So this city has worked, okay? I remember when I came to Form 1, I was in Stare. And I used to come from Eldoret using OTC. I was 12 years old when I arrived in Form 1, and I was deposited at OTC. Okay? And I walked at 5:30 in the morning from OTC to Stare through Kikomba. It was safe, and here I am. Remember, there were no mobile phones, so my parents knew after a month when you write a letter back home that actually you arrived. That's the city of Nairobi that most of you don't know. But if you let them go backwards, this city was actually a stopping point in 1899 when those who were building the railway were figuring out how to pass through Limuru. That was actually how the city started. But what did they find here? They found a swamp. And that is why it's called Nairobi. It was a swamp. In Masai, it's a place of cool waters. So it was a swamp just to water the animals, and it was also an animal corridor. This was the corridor from Amboseli for elephants to Abadeas. The reason why when you go to Norfolk, why you have the Delamere Terrace, and it's unfortunate that Fairmont have modified it in a way that it actually, the original viewpoint was damaged, was they were viewing wildlife as they passed KBC, because KBC was a swamp. And so therefore it was a pavilion to see migratory wildlife. And a lot of it was elephants and lions which used to pass there. That was in 1904. And then, of course, along the way, where was the capital city? Those of you who know. It was Machakos. So the original capital city for Kenya was Machakos. And then, I think somewhere between 1930 and 1940, there was a plague in the city. okay? Because then migrants came and there was no planning. Is it possible we can have another plague? Yes. Because then, if you look at Nairobi of today, many places are not well planned. And so therefore, be careful for another plague. As they say, history repeats itself. And then, of course, independence came, and it worked. The most consequential decision that damaged Nairobi was done in 1983. And I'm giving you history because most of you are young. It was done in 1983. What happened? Moi disbanded the city council. There was a mayor, and he brought in a commission because, in his view, elected leaders were doing the right thing. So he brought in a commission. That commission of 1983 came and destroyed all systems in City Hall, and they have never recovered to date. Never. That chaos in City Hall was brought by a commission. Now, even when multi-party came in 10 years later in 92, it never recovered. New constitution came, nothing. Okay? So, when the constitution was being done in Bomas, it was not Bomas. Bomas was the tail end. When Yashpal Gai Commission was formed in the year 2001, there were a lot of suggestions then on how to manage the city, because it was clear and evident that there was a lot of chaos. I was one of those they invited to figure out, okay, especially devolution, chapter 11 of our constitution. And there were many suggestions that then came. Let me give you some of them. One was, how do we get government out of Nairobi? Okay, I know some of you are saying, hey, government is the biggest cause of chaos in Nairobi. The traffic, they are told to arrive at work at 8 just to put your coat on the table. So all these traffic jams should be sorted out by telling government, just come at 10 o'clock. After all, you don't work anyway, so just come at 10. Look at the traffic, the congestion that happens. What did we suggest that government, where does it go to? We suggested that government goes to Nanyuki. Another suggested Isiolo. Okay? The question was, where would we get water? Okay? The challenge was water. It was not even land. Land doesn't exist. And so we made some suggestions. Me, I was for Nanyuki. Let me tell you the reason why I was for Nanyuki. Because we know we are on the equator. So Nanyuki is on the equator. And we will have had the only capital with snow on the equator, Mount Kenya. Why? We were moving from Nairobi, which is the only capital in the world with a national park, inside the city. So you see, we were sort of debating where does it go. And so there has been a lot of debate on this capital city of Kenya. Now, the final debate that we didn't succeed was to place Nairobi as a special status case, like Washington, D.C. Now, all this was backed by data. There was no guesswork. 55% of the people of Nairobi live in informal settlements. And so, therefore, if you go for straight democracy, one man, one vote, you will forever have a Sonko. Forever. Okay? So we said we must then rethink what's the capital city. Because look, remember, 4 counties, Nairobi, Kiambu, Machakos, and Kajiado, is 60% of Kenya's GDP. 60. So therefore, you look at all metrics. 60% of Kenya Power customers are in those 4 counties. Telcom, 60%. KRA, 60%. I know sometimes when you look at the data, they say, oh, the capital city actually is not that big. It contributes only 21% of GDP. That's a lie. Get out of Nairobi, and actually there is no income. So the city is too important to be given to MCS. We need a special dispensation, and part of the lobbying, therefore, I'm suggesting to Kara is Nairobi to have a special status, because remember, we are going to have a constitutional review soon. It's coming, okay? And we must be ready with the arguments. And I will be there myself. I will be up and down, yeah? Because we need definitely a new way. The other way is, if you have a special status, we now must break Nairobi into boroughs. That is not in question. So that then we have, I don't know, whatever name of a governor of the city appointed, hopefully, by a president, then we have a mayor for the borough. I would like to see the mayor of Westlands. Because right now, we are sitting as Spring Valley Residents Association, but there's no anchor at City Hall. So we're just floating there, and there are too many problems, and we don't know how to channel. Who do we channel these things to? So we must agree a decentralized system where we have boroughs, okay? Then those boroughs will control all the critical things, okay, of a borough. What are they? Number one has to be land. The borough must control. All the resident association there must have control over land, and it should be classified as community land. Because if you get out of the cities, if you say go for example to Isiolo or Samburu, okay, the land where communities are sitting on is classified as community land. Why can't it be classified that any public land that is within the jurisdiction of Spring Valley becomes community land? And we own it, and we protect it, and we can tell an investor, come and put a factory to employ our children within Spring Valley. That we must think through, because then, if we don't do it, what happens in City Hall? My neighbors, they will just allocate it themselves. And you are sitting there, and then public land just vanishes as you watch. So we must protect public land. Then the other thing is, the city is sitting on a disaster when it comes to water. Water, I know most of you drill boreholes. We are just postponing a disaster. You see, the boreholes which are drilled in Nairobi, I think 90% nobody knows that they actually exist. One day you'll just find the city sinking. So we must rethink water in the city. 80% of the water of Nairobi now comes from Dakaine. Dakaine was completed in 1994. It was supposed to last for 15 years before another dam is created. Now we are in 2024, 30 years later, and a replacement dam doesn't exist. End result, all of you are digging boreholes. Those boreholes brings us a problem, which is we are trying to create private solutions to public problems. How far can you go with your private solutions to public problems? You have potholes, you get your four-wheel drive. I don't care. You have no water, drill your borehole. I don't care. My friends, that point of caring is coming soon. And so therefore, we must rethink. Now, one suggestion I want to give, and I know most of you look at me with hostility. I saw it when I was in KWS. I was director of KWS for 8 years. We must pay for ecosystem services. We must compensate the people of Abadeas, Nyeri, Muranga, Nyandarua, parts of Kiambu, and tell them, okay, we want another dam for Nairobi. We will support educational facilities around Abadeas. My suggestion at the time when I was in KWS was each water bill in Nairobi just contributes 50 shillings. And it was going to create an endowment fund that then supports the people who protect Abadeas. We must think creatively and think sustainably for the long term. Because if we don't do it, brothers and sisters, Nairobi is sitting on a time bomb when it comes to water. Okay? Then the other one, of course, is waste management. Nairobi, again, is in a mess. I mean, I'm sure most of you have been to Dandora dump site. Have you? We are just sitting ducks here. That is a linear, I think, Christina, you call it the linear, that's linear economy rather than circular. All of us are just dumping this thing in Dandora, and we don't know exactly what happens there. It's actually a shame. If you go there, you feel ashamed as a Nairobian that actually the waste you generate actually goes there, and the ecosystem it creates there. We must then rethink creatively. I went to Italy in 2011, no, 2010 there, okay? A small city called Pavia. And it was a circular economy. All the waste is processed, okay? The organic waste goes to rice farms. It's in the state of Milan, okay? And then the others are dried and then burnt to produce methane gas, which then, I think that city runs on 8 megawatts. It's a circular economy. So all of us need to rethink and say, how can we help the city of Nairobi create a power plant from our own waste? So that then the waste becomes demand-driven. Somebody comes to collect it because there is a market for it, rather than being a problem to the city. So let us rethink through that waste management thing. And I like your idea of segregation, but segregation, it ends up in Dandora. So you are doing zero work. So let us create a power plant in Dandora that landfill uses that waste. And then from that waste, then we recreate a new city. Then there is the issue of, okay, I talk about the economy, FDI. The other thing about Nairobi is tourism. I was in that industry for 8 years, and if you look at other touristic cities of the world, what brings a visitor to a city? What attracts you to Mombasa, for example? Most of you are going to Mombasa this holiday. The ocean, the beach. That's boring. There must be more to life. Okay? So, how many of you have been to Paris? What attracted you to Paris? What? The culture. That's the point. It's the culture. Yeah? And what is culture? It is people's activities. This city is too boring. Right now it's at 9 o'clock. It's dead. There are no restaurants, there are no pubs. People are so scared of security and all sorts of things. Now we need, as resident association, to think of creating a Nairobi culture, a nightlife for Nairobi. So I remember President Kenyatta in 2014 created a committee to relook at tourism, and I was a co-opted member. And what did I suggest? That the CBD, and it goes up to my school, Starehe there, Kikomba, okay, be sanitized. That if you are within that ecosystem, It was coming up to, I think, Kenyatta Avenue. We sanitize that so that if you are within there, you are sure nobody can rob you. And it's possible. We sanitize that, and then any tourist, any visitor that goes in can even walk from city center to Serena at 3 a.m. safe. So we must then create enclaves of safety. And once the thugs know that we have sanitized the heart of the city, where do they go to? That FDI I was talking about, they will now go and work for a factory. And they'll be told, go away. You don't belong here. And then now, within that sanitized ecosystem, what do we have? Restaurants, museums, theaters, the arts. You know, we need to create this so that then we have a city of ladies and gentlemen, not just workers. You know, right now you're just workers. You're just popping in and out. How can your life be so boring, surely? You know, the city must be vibrant with an exciting culture. Yeah? So you can walk around with your family, you can do night shopping, you can, you know, eat good food, you know, buy trinkets, somebody says, anything. We, the residents, have to recreate that culture. If you're expecting City Hall to do it, you guys, you are dreaming. So, therefore, we must then recreate a city. I mean, I've been to Brazil. Their capital, Brasilia, and Rio. And then everything happens in Rio. And I was like, why is Brasilia dead? Because Brasilia was just a government offices. They are blocks. They look so boring. Okay? But go to Rio. Maisha iko, you know? So therefore, Nairobi, let's create a Paris, a Rio, you know, some nightlife, some place to live in. After all, you know, you only live once, guys. Don't be so boring. Okay? Feel challenged, eh? And then the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention today is how to feed the city. You know, our city is not well planned. Nairobi is, if you look at the way it's expanding, if in the next 30 to 50 years, by 2050 to 2070, we will have lost Kiambu to residential. Now, Kiambu is very valuable agricultural land. All the way, if you can imagine the day we lose those tea estates of Tigoni. And it's coming. We have lost the coffee estates next door. This city has to expand this way. Machakos and Kajiado. Because that's semi-arid. So you live in a semi-arid place and then we protect agricultural land. It's only resident association who can defend it. Otherwise, the future will be, you will be bringing food from distant places, which increases your cost. So be clever, protect yourself. So you might want to say, I want red soil. You can have actually brown soil or cotton soil, but it will be okay. You can even put a little red soil and you're okay. But you have good food, cheap food. Let's not lose our agricultural land, okay? So, as I conclude, what is my call to action today for Kara and Nairobi? And remember, when I talk about Nairobi, actually I'm talking about all the residents. It's just Nairobi is a good example. And just probably for your information, when I was in KWS, we created another similar resident association for communities. Because we used to argue about revenue sharing. So I told them, why don't you do what the state does? Create your own little national parks. And that's how conservancies were born in 2004. Today, it has inspired, there are almost 200 now around the country, so they are bigger than Kara. And I chair one of them, the biggest, which is called Northern Regional Trust. NRT, and supported by the Danish, NRT, as we speak today, we have 45 conservancies, community conservancies from Lamu to Turkana, covering 7 million acres. 7 million acres. And we hope to expand to more. And we have inspired other conservancies in Mara, others in Amboseli area, others in Savo area. And they are now, 3 years ago, they were assessed for carbon, and they are the first communities in 2022 to receive carbon credits in the world. So you guys are sitting here, people who never went to school have received carbon credits. Na wewe na degree ngapi? So let's think through, guys. There are a lot of things which are happening up in the north that are very interesting, that even you as Nairobians can learn from. Okay? We formed a secretariat that supports them, and that secretariat has changed the character completely on how communities view their own land. You know, there are 4 income streams. One is livestock, what they do normally. The other one is beadwork. So all those trinkets that you guys wear come from the north. Okay? They also have tourism. Our tourism approach, and we debated a lot with them, was to go for high-end tourism. You'll never find a hotel like this there. This is too cheap. I want you to Google. Okay? Can you Google a lodge called Sasab? Just an example. S-A-A-S-A-B. Sasab. Sasab Lodge. Quick. What's the rack rate? What's the rack rate for Sasab Lodge? S-A-S-A-A-B. Sorry, I confuse you. What's the rack rate? If you go for this holiday to Sasab, it's already fully booked anyway, so it's too late. What's the rack rate? 2,800. $4,100. Per night. That's per night. That is a lodge within community land west of Samburu National Reserve called Westgate Community. Okay? We connected, because I used to be the CEO of investment promotion. So we just created a system where they attract an investor and then they partner with the community on a very attractive revenue sharing formula. So the investor benefits and the community benefits, and they just go for high-end tourism. Nothing more. Low impact. So they are very good in sustainability. Now there are so many of them. So how many of you have been to Sasab? Olentile. There is one called Olentile. Anybody who has been to Olentile? Sarara? Saruni? Okay, where do you guys go? I am so disappointed. Okay, so anyway, so a lot of things are happening in Kenya that you need to know. Okay, communities are organizing themselves. So as those of you in urban areas are organizing, communities are organizing, and I can tell you without any shadow of doubt, in many cases, those that we have organized are ahead of Kara. They are ahead of you. So Ocheng, I'll connect you with our CEO for Northern Regional Trust. Our headquarters is in Lewa, although we are moving some of our operations to Nanyuki. And it's a huge, a very large-scale operation to support communities on the ground. So, what's my call to action in summary? Number one, let's think of Nairobi as a smart city. Now, since City Hall is not functioning the way we had envisaged, this thing has to be grassroots driven. A few resident associations can come together and they sit together and say, what does smart city mean within my neighborhood? Okay? So, in summary, we're just saying a smart city is one which is secure. How do we secure? Most of them are secure already because we have security companies. But we are not integrating with the police. Remember, you have already paid tax for those guys. So you must get what is due, which is clean, which is connected, the road network, and also which is people-driven and people-friendly. Now, we need to start doing that seriously. Because of that, I'm adding something more that I've not heard being talked about here, which is to reset the software of the people. I know most of you have said, you know, this city, these residents are very, some of them are very difficult. Even in our own residence, we have difficult guys. Okay? But it's a software problem. It's a mindset thing. Okay? So we must reset the software. So let's create a smart city, estate by estate. Okay? And it's possible. I've seen smart cities. For example, our neighbors, Lakeview Estate, to me is an example of a smart estate. They have protected themselves, and I have friends there, and they don't lock their doors at night. They are open. It's forested. They have a dam. They created a dam with a boat, and the place is secure. So you don't see grills. That's a smart city. So, as a result, therefore, I am going to give an award, a trophy for next year, and we have to assess. We will sit together with Henry and the team to assess which estate or resident association best reflects a world-class smart city. So I'm giving the award. Because I'm a resident of Nairobi, I want, and if by 20, and we target by 2050, the whole city will be smart. So just in the next 26 years, it is possible and it's doable. So we have to start rewarding, because reward triggers behavior change. Okay? So, and then we need to figure out, as Kara, how then do we drive, okay, the larger macroeconomic issues of Nairobi. As we figure out the micro issues of the smart estates, how do we then also influence through advocacy for the macro issues of Nairobi City? What are we looking at? Connecting roads and bridges. We need to map them ourselves. Okay? I was battling with one when I was in KWS. This bypass, I had refused completely, and when I left, it was changed. The original road was not where it is. There are people who grabbed the original road. So we lost a piece of the only national park anywhere in the world within a city, this one. Then the railway came. That railway had been mooted when I was director of KWS, and I refused, and I told them, over my dead body will a railway pass through this place. And I left. Now, you know, when you look at some of the decisions, you wonder what goes on in people's heads. The value of a national park is visual. The number one value is visual. Now, we have a monster, a railway which we don't use. Remember, we don't use that railway, which passes through Nairobi National Park, a gem. Now, those of you who are engineers, was it too difficult to pass this railway in Kitengela? Was it too difficult? That's lazy thinking, isn't it? So we must make sure that civil servants are creative thinkers, because that was lazy thinking. Now, how much lazy thinking is going on in our city? It's too much lazy thinking, isn't it? So resident association must be the defenders and advocates of better planned city. So roads and bridges, cycleways, airports, okay, Razadani, sewers and drainage, okay? Right now, there's a lot of debate on the land around Ruai. Somebody has grabbed 3,600 acres of reserve land. But there has been no kelele from the resident association. We need to defend that land. Otherwise, how is the city going to expand? Solid waste management, I've talked about Dandora and other places. Schools and hospitals. The colonialists left some good schools, Hospital Lille, Westlands Primary. And you, Miros, what have you built? Nothing. Okay? You went to public school, but your children no longer go to public school. Sports and recreation facilities. It's too boring to live in a city where you just move from office to... You must pass somewhere, isn't it? Entertainment. We must have a city of entertainment. So we must then now map all these things. Each resident association, CARA aggregates that, and it becomes a platform for advocacy. If we do that, we'll have a working city. Okay? So therefore, the last suggestion I'll make is what the Rwandese do it so well, which is volunteering. Every last Saturday of the month, they meet, communities meet, okay, and they do voluntary work for the community, and they call it Omuganda. Okay? Because we are so spoiled, everything must be done through a tender. Let us now say every so often we'll decide. The Rwandese do it once a month. And they have done so many things as a community which would have costed billions in tenders. Remember, those billions in tenders is your tax. So therefore, let us figure out, as resident association, our own Omuganda. And I can tell you, we can make Nairobi another Dubai. The average temperature in Dubai is 45. The average temperature in Nairobi is 26. So therefore, we have the most livable city in the world. Now, the most livable city should ideally be what Dubai is, which is the largest construction site on earth. Now, all this unemployment and all these challenges that we are all talking about our children, we can make it by making Nairobi the best city in the world. Are we ready? Yes. Thank you very much.